As My Heart Gives Out by Kira 18 on AO3, Chapter 9, Going Home. Take it easy, Aizawa murmured with a voice as soft as a sigh, his arms cuddling the fragile boy who struggled to rise from the confines of the hospital bed. There's no need to rush. A shaky response came from Izuku, his feeble efforts to stand betrayed by a trembling arm. Easy for you to say, he replied in a fragile voice, his wariness painted in every quiver as he eased himself into a new seat. You're not the one confined to this wheelchair. He sighed, the effort echoing lines of pain in his face. He despised this predicament. Every moment was a reminder of his vulnerability. It's only temporary, the hero reassured, moving to stand guard behind him, his protective hands gripping the wheelchair's handles. Once we reach the car, you'll be free as a bird, he asked, concern etching his features. Do you have everything you need? Surveying the room that had become his world for the past month, a sense of longing tugged at his very core. He yearned to escape this place, as his advent to hospitals had deepened with every passing day, surrounded by restless hums of machinery embedded within sterile walls, the acrid scent of chemicals stinging his nose. He craved liberation. Yes, let's get the hell out of here, he urged, tugging his baseball cap lower and raising the hood of his jacket, obscuring his defining features. The League had exposed his identity to the world. Leaving the hospital unobserved was a necessity he couldn't afford to overlook. As the wheels of his chair rolled forward, they emitted a barely audible squeak, which, in his heightened state, seemed to resound like a symphony. Each screech burrowed into his mind, overwhelming his senses with catastrophic delays. To preserve his sanity, he clung to the steady rhythm of Aizawa's heartbeat behind him, willing the clamor to fade. His hand sought refuge in his pocket, an attempt to quell his fidgeting, while his empty sleeve fluttered lightly with every tile's imperfection they traversed. With unwavering focus on the reassuring heartbeat, he slowly but surely wrestled back control over his racing thoughts. The journey to the car proceeded with surprising ease. Aizawa, understanding that silence was his best companion in the moment of vulnerability. Once safely seated in the car, he couldn't help but feel his heart race as he realized the potential peril of his death trap. Sensing his uneasy, Aizawa's hand settled on his shoulder, gently squeezing. We'll take it slow, he assured. His mom had been going slow too, he wanted to say, but kept quiet as he felt the man buckle down his seatbelt. He fumbled with his own, unable to get the right angle right away, but somehow managed, hearing the telltale clicking sound reverberate. Can't afford to check out earlier than planned, huh? He attempted a feeble jest, hoping to lighten the mood, yet to no one's surprise, it fell flat as a board. Sit tight, problem child, the teacher grumbled, momentarily startling him with the familiar nickname. Izuku almost felt guilty for his attempts at humor. As the car glided along, his anxiety gradually receded, replaced by the comfortable beat of Aizawa's heart, the distant hum of the radio, and the reassuring thumps of tires on the road. When they arrived at UA's parking lot, he practically hurled himself out of the car, his legs tumbling with the unaccustomed weight. Fortunately, Aizawa had anticipated his recklessness and was already by his side before he could taste what freshly painted gravel was like. With a hand secured around his waist, Aizawa guided him until he felt confident in his stance, and let him go. They proceeded at a slow, snail's pace, a snarky contrast to his earlier impatience. He wished he hadn't dismissed the wheelchair now. A few days before his discharge, Aizawa had explained the Doran system recently implemented by UA. As his legal ward, Izuku was to move into the teacher's apartment with him, sharing the building with Class 1A, living in close proximity to 20 teenagers, and more importantly, Shinsou. You win some, you lose some, you suppose. It's just ahead, Aizawa whispered, extending his arm as if offering guidance, though Izuku's senses were keen enough to navigate his own. You don't have to do that anymore, Izuku replied, a hint of amusement coloring his voice, although guilt tipped at his heart due to the reminder of his past deception. I could sense the world around me just fine. In fact, I could probably tell you right now which of your students are waiting behind that door. Right, Aizawa responded, warily eyeing him, seeming unsure of his abilities. Let me do this, anyways, he added softly, his gaze shifting to the side. If only for my peace of mind. And Izuku couldn't really say no to that, could he? Izuku tentatively wrapped his slender, scarred fingers around Aizawa's elbow, stepping a bit closer as they continued their journey. It was as much for his comfort as it was for Aizawa's, he realized. So, which of the demon children are we about to face? Aizawa asked, conversationally, a hint of disgrudgment in his tone. Izuku focused on the building a few feet away, honing in on the heat signatures and heartbeats behind the imposing wooden door. Kachan, Kirishima, Hitoshi, Uraraka, and Todoroki. He counted, narrowing his focus. A few more in the kitchen, it seems. And, there. Ida's heading towards them. I should have known, Aizawa murmured, acknowledging his own oversight. And he really should have. Izuku mused, with no small amount of amusement. Are you ready? If I say no, can we go back to your old apartment instead? Izuku asked, a false hope tinging his voice. Regrettably, no. But we would wait until you were. Aizawa replied, seriously. Fine, lead the way, Izuku concealed, taking a step forwards before he could second-guess himself. He could almost feel the proud smile gracing Aizawa's features. As they crossed the stairs leading into the doorway, the door swung open wide. Apparently, patience was not a contempt that had reached their ears. Midoriya, Izuku, rang out as a couple of teens rushed to meet them halfway. Welcome home, bro, Kirishima exclaimed with excitement, reaching for a hug but thinking better of it as Aizawa directed his glare towards him. We've been waiting for you, he chuckled sheepishly. I can see that, Izuku crippled, internally laughing at his joke. Can you? Todoroki inquired, with fleeting innocence, his face the very embodiment of neutrality. Of course he can't, Candy Cane, Kachan growled, missing the barely contained smile Todoroki spouted. I'm surrounded by idiots, he grumbled, stepping forward to deliver a fist bump to Izuku's shoulder. Good to see you on your feet, nerd. Yeah? Izuku retorted with a huff, his focus shifting as another figure stepped forward. Missed me, didn't you? As if. Midoriya, I'm glad you're feeling better. Uraraka stammered, her nervousness evident now that she knew who he was. Thanks, it's good to finally be out and about, he replied, gently, offering her a warm smile. Let's give Midoriya-kun some space We need to act like students befitting our esteemed school. The wind shifted as the boy's hands chopped at the empty air, drawing a grin from the students around him. I think they get it, Ida. A familiar voice finally piped up, having stayed quiet until then. He could feel his heart flutter and falter for just a moment. Hey, you. He grinned, taking a step towards the voice. Hey, you too. Shinsou responded, lightly, drawing him against his chest a moment later. His hold, gentle, and yet walking a line of too tight. Aizawa didn't make any move to stop him. Welcome home, he whispered, waiting a beat before letting him go and stepping back. Izuku instantly missed the warmth. Hate to break up the dynamic reunion or whatever, but come on. I'm not gonna freeze my ass off if I can help it. Bakugo pointed out. Yes, Izuku agreed mentally. The pink flush on his cheeks was definitely from the cold. No other reason. They entered the building without further ado, and Izuku received more greetings and odd stares from students who had heard the commotion. When Aizawa finally led him to the elevator and up his apartment on the 5th floor, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. The space was wide and inviting, infused with the fragrance of freshly painted walls and polished floors. Approaching what he assumed was a couch, he couldn't help but comment, mirth coloring his tone. You still have quite a view, Eraser. Yeah, well, someone's gotta appreciate it, problem child. Aizawa replied, his growing grin impossible to hide. A soft patter of movements approached from the left, and he turned to face the approaching furball. Ah, our resident rat has found me, has she? He asked softly, extending an arm for the cat to climb onto. How's it, Glowing Claw? Did you miss me? Holding the cat awkwardly with one hand, he managed to place her on his lap, relishing the sensation of her fur against his fingers. She's been quite a handful without you around. Aizawa chimed in, settling in one of the other sides of the couch with a warm cup of coffee. Mike was taking care of her while we were away. He spoke softly, taking a sip from his steamed beverage. You? A nuisance? Izuku directed to the feline, his tone teasing. Liars! All of them. Claudia meowed, as if in complete agreement. Aizawa mumbled something about favorites in response, though Izuku heard him clearly. What would you like for lunch? The teacher asked after a few moments of comfortable silence. Izuku responded, distractedly, his fingers still carding through soft fur. Anything's fine. You know I'm not picky. His years on the street had made it impossible for him to be so. Humming, Aizawa rose and walked to the adjoining kitchen to check the fridge, which Mike had stocked in advance. Katsudon it is, he declared, recalling a conversation from their patrol. Izuku should have expected him to remember. After a moment, he added, Don't you want to check out your room before we eat? Get settled in a bit? Later, Izuku grumbled, exhaustion creeping over him. I think I'll let my eyes rest for a while. Is that all right? Go ahead. I'll wake you when the food's ready. As his eyelids grew heavier, tendrils of sleep enveloped him, pulling him into their embrace. Just before consciousness slipped away, a sense of warmth flooded over him, a warmth only associated with safety. I'm home, his mind whispered. Izuku's rest, for once, was deep and restorative. When he woke, he found himself surrounded by the comforting silence of Aizawa's apartment, the soft hum of the refrigerator, and the occasional rustle of Claudia, who had decided to curl up on the couch beside him, filled the air. Aizawa emerged from the kitchen, a warm and welcoming expression on his face as he carried a tray bearing 2 steaming bowls of katsudon. The savory aroma of the dish enveloped the room, and Izuku's stomach responded with an eager growl. Welcome back to the land of living, Aizawa said, setting the tray down on the coffee table. Hope you're hungry. Izuku stretched and rubbed his eyes, a small smile playing on his lips. I think my stomach just answered that question for you. They sat down on the couch, and Aizawa handed Izuku his bowl before he dug in. Izuku tried to tie up his hair, feeling as though the long, curly locks would get in his way. However, the more he tried, the more the task seemed impossible. Huffing slightly, he resisted the urge to snap the small elastic hair tie in half. Wordlessly, Aizawa rose from his own seat and settled himself next to him, holding out his hands silently. Sighing in defeat, Midoriya handed the tie over, turning to give him a better vantage point. Was this what life was going to be like from now on? Needing help for the easiest of tasks? Feeling a soft pat on his head, he mumbled out a soft thank you, turning back to his awaited bowl. As they began to eat, Izuku struggled once again with his chopsticks, his frustration evident as he tried to grasp the food. Aizawa, once more his rising agitation, offered softly, Here, let me help you, he said, guiding Izuku's hand to the right position, holding the chopsticks, settling the bowl comfortably on the table and set on the boy's lap. Just take it slow. Izuku nodded, his frustration ebbing as he let himself take a moment to breathe. Soon enough, with careful movements, he was able to take small bites and savor the flavors. This is amazing, he mumbled between bites. Gratitude swelling within him. Aizawa chuckled. Glad you like it. It's one of my specialties. They continued to eat it. Compatible silence. And Izuku couldn't help but feel the weight of the past month slowly lift from his shoulders. He missed the simple pleasures of sharing a meal with someone, especially someone as familiar and comforting as Aizawa. After they finished, Aizawa leaned back and let out a satisfied sigh. Feeling better? Izuku nodded, his gaze resting on the warm, cozy apartment. Guess so. This place feels way better than that chemical abomination. I guess with your senses, it really is like that, isn't it? The teacher hummed, thoughtfully, a sad tilt to his voice. Maybe I can get you some sensory equipment. A lot of quirks have similar effects. It's alright. I got used to it a long time ago, Racer. Being able to live with it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, problem child. I want you to feel at home here. Aizawa said, his eyes holding a warmth that matched the ambience of the apartment. It's been a long time since I've had a real home, he confessed, slowly. Aizawa's old apartment had been starting to feel that way, but the weight of his secrets had kept him from truly feeling like he belonged. Aizawa's expression softened even more, and he placed a reassuring hand on Izuku's shoulder. Well, it's never too late. Izuku felt a rush of gratitude and leaned into the touch. Thank you, Aizawa. He squeezed his shoulders once more before he rose from the couch, the empty bowls held in his grasp. How about I show you your room now? Izuku nodded eagerly, and they made their way to the bedroom. Aizawa opened the door, revealing a cozy room with a comfortable-looking bed and a window that allowed soft winds to caress the room through the drawn blinds. It's not much, but I hope you find it comfortable, Aizawa said. Izuku stepped into the room and looked around, his fingers brushing past the textures of the furniture. It's perfect, thank you. As he settled into his new room, surrounded by the familiarity of Aizawa's home, Izuku couldn't help but feel a little hopeful for the days to come. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to let himself truly feel, if only for a little while. Aizawa stood in the doorway, watching Izuku with a sense of quiet satisfaction. Call me if you need me. You have access to anything you want. The showers are equipped with the same options as our last place, so don't hesitate if you want to. And really, I mean it. Call me if you need me, no matter when. Got it, problem child? Yes, thanks, Eraser. I really appreciate it. He responded, softly, drawing his medication from his bag as he settled down on his bed. That's what I'm here for, kid. Yes, it wasn't hard at all for him to allow a little hope to snake into the cracks of his drawn-up walls. He just hoped that his happiness wouldn't bring more pain to the people around him. Maybe he could be selfish, if just for a little while. Okay, I love that. I love that. I want to talk. So, first of all, I got it confirmed on which arm it was. So, there was a joke that completely flew by me, and I thought, why did he respond like that? Okay, that's weird. And it completely flew off my head, which was when Izuku was asked if he was all right, Izuku said, I'm all right. And Bakugo replied with, you mean you're all left? Because apparently it's his right arm that got cut off. So, he got the Lily/Lotus treatment. Except, obviously, the placement is very different, considering the placement on where his hand got cut off was an inch, or just below the shoulder, while Lotus/Lily got it just an inch above the elbow. So, small differences, but right hand, which imposes a big thing. And in this chapter, we see it. We see it very much, which is the struggle of having one arm and losing your one arm specifically. Like, it's one thing being born with one arm, right? Or losing an arm really young at an age, right? You adapt quickly, right? But like, let's say you lose an arm later down in life, it's hard to adapt. It's hard to adapt. Especially it's super freaking hard. It's a whole change of the way that you live. Something as mundane as picking up a cat or tying up your hair becomes difficult, right? Especially if you lose your dominant arm, which in Izuku's case was his right arm, right? And obviously, Lotus and Lily, Lotus/Lily, they're the same person, just gender bent, literally lost their right arm. And look, normally when I roleplay them, it's a year after like everything's happened, or a bit after, a year, 2-3 years after everything's happened, and doing simple mundane things, they've learned to, do that. But it's something as small as even texting becomes hard. Think about it. Try texting with your non-dominant hand and only one arm. It becomes hard, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. You could do it. It's just, it becomes a whole of, okay, I need to relearn my habits. Something as simple as even writing. I don't think he's probably going to need to write. He's blind, but even writing, it's hard. Why? Literally, it's not your dominant arm. And even writing with one arm, like let's say you only have one arm and luckily you're lucky enough to keep your dominant arm, it's hard to write on a piece of paper without two hands. At least for me, because I have to hold down the paper with one hand and then write with the other, right? I can't just write with one hand because then the paper just starts flying with me and my movements and stuff. So my heart goes out to Izuku. Also, if it's been a month since Izuku's been hospitalized and, whatever and all that, Rue? Is Rue in the house? Where's Rue? Are we going to see him in the next chapter? Or we need to see that. The next chapter is called Overload. Overload? Yeah, Overload. And unfortunately, the next chapter is the last chapter for now. Last time this fanfic was updated, not uploaded. Well, I mean, it does says, no, it says uploaded. I said updated. God fucking damn it. Was this year, 2024, February 2nd. So February 2nd of 2024, which is literally a month ago. It's not that bad. It's great. I've seen fanfictions where last time it was updated was 2017. So I'm happy. I'm excited. But remember, guys, we're not going to pressure Kira 18 into releasing the next one because you know what? We're going to let Kira cook, all right? We let Kira cook because you know what? Kira can cook. Kira can cook. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.